tap. No one
Great
wanted to
title.
listen. Yeah, no one wanted to listen, Steve, when I wrote it. I probably need to break that out and rerun that because there's so much more scientific evidence now. But I was scorned when I wrote that article, despite having documentation.
Well, again, and not only that, it gets worse, okay? 25 years ago, I talked about excretive pharmaceuticals. It wasn't just the xenoestrogens or the estrogen compounds. It was everything. I mean, you got a sewer mixing bowl, and even though you can take out the E. coli in water and you can take out different pathogens, you still can't get rid of that. So the mullahs come on the scene, and they start making statements like this: America has lost its fertility rate. That's absolutely correct.
Yes.
Basically mocking the sperm count. You know, it's interesting. I'll make a statement. The sperm count went down in America as the illiteracy rate rose dramatically. The masculinity. Come on, do you really think ROTC military guys need red high heels, or I don't know what they're called, but an apron that makes you sympathize with a pregnant woman? Do you really think that women are meant to be in the trenches? Now, it's different if you're, fighting for your life and stuff, but what's happened? The morale of the military has been so compromised, you can't believe, well, forgive me, you can believe, the average person listening to this cannot believe some of the psychological duress that our fighting men are under, you know? They're being lectured more on how to get along with the 31 flavors of now defined human beings. It used to be male and female. That was pretty easy. And I said, I don't even want to go with the 31 version, you know. Number one, I'm too non-sequential. But here's the gist of it. Confusion. The Bible says God is not the author of confusion. Then who is? Devil. You know, you can demoralize, and here's the thing. All warfare is based on if you will, an implied morality, the implied right to fight for your values, your language, your culture. The only guy I see that's really out there fighting for his borders, language, and culture is Vladimir Putin. And I'll get emails saying, you're a sympathizer. No, I'm telling you the truth. If Putin tells the truth, I'm going to stand by his statement. He's telling the truth. If your government wants to take your guns away, which they do, isn't it interesting? Not one jihad training camp has ever been raided or any guns taken away. I got to tell you, now we've got stabbings and chaos in California, I think Sacramento or someplace. They're calling it a Nazi mega rally. Notice how the Nazis themselves will blame the Nazis, yet they're behind the scenes paying off everybody, okay? So where does that leave us tonight? First of all, Brexit. Let me just capsulate this. Brexit was an inside deal. We got eyewitnesses that the lights stayed on in the City of London way into the night and into the early morning. The City of London is a separate entity. It's like the Vatican and Rome. It's not under the British government. People were trading and making $100 billion bets. They did a really good job of keeping that news out of the market. Most everybody didn't believe that the Brits would exit from the Brexit. The reason why it was allowed, Dave, is so that the gleaning in the foreign currency markets could be maximized. You follow me? You read of guys making 200, 300, 400 million bucks on what results to 4 hours, 8 hours of trades. That's pretty good wages. Oh, except one thing. It came at the pillage and plunder of their countrymen and taking their country under. What most people have got to understand about anybody that's in favor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership is they're traitors. What most people have to understand about those in favor of gun control, that they're your executioners. And by the way, all the ones that sat in on the, love fest on the floor of Congress the other day, all the Democrats, guess what? They all have carry permits. They all have weapons. Or as some of them said, who was a guy, Rangel? Only us people need to have guns. The other people have the police. Well, I guess the police aren't good enough for them, but they are good enough for guns. It's insanity. It's total tragedy. It is the self-destruct mechanism. And I know you've probably wondered this, Dave. People don't just get taken by surprise. Even God said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Do you think you and I would be invited to, well, you just got to love yourself more. You just got to realize your best life is now. You just got to realize that we just have a group hug, or like the Attorney General, love will conquer all. Well, it didn't work on the Nazis. By the way, Attila Hun didn't practice it. Genghis Khan didn't practice it. Kublai Khan and some of the dynasties in China that killed 30 to 40 million people. Most people aren't familiar with that history. Or the wars that have taken place in ancient history. A lot of people died. So the group hug never worked in history, you know? Well, I'm going to love you to pieces. Well, yeah, unfortunately, you're going to be hacked into pieces and probably sold in the meat markets and whatever army is hungry enough to sell human flesh. You know, I used to make statements like that, and I was called an extremist, okay? I was called a fearmonger. I was called a fear porn purveyor, blah, 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 until the meat of Christians started showing up in Syria, until little children, 4-year-old girls, with their heart ripped out. Oh, I don't want to hear that. You're bloody Quayle. You're so bloody. And you're so bloody stupid, okay? People who live in the world of denial and absolutely will do anything and everything to attack anybody who says, hey, this is really going on. If the blind lead the blind, Jesus said, they both fall. But it's tough to basically say, read the handwriting on the wall when people put their hand up like horse blinders and start singing to themselves. Have you ever had, Dave, anybody do that? Talk to somebody, say, well, Mr. Hodges, what do you think? And you start to talk, and they put their fingers in their ears and start to sing and run from you?
Not that. I've had them turn to the side, hold their hand out from letting me get too close, supposedly, and just say, oh, that's right, I forgot, you're one of those conspiracy theorists. Yeah, I've had that happen.
Well, yeah, when they run, though, from you, that's a pretty good sign, okay? You know, and so here's what I'm saying tonight. I hope people understand that the go button has been pressed. The go button is simply this. We've seen tests of communications being shut down throughout the country. EBT cards waiting some places 9 days. We've seen the disruption of the Baltic Dry Index. We've seen reports coming from all over the country of a lack of product, or maybe drugstore shelves with only 1 or 2 deep. Meanwhile, we get the stories from the truckers, and a lot of truckers listen to you, listen to me. They're dropping vast amounts of stuff off in the underground.
Stuff right now with Steve, but before we rejoin Steve, I just want to remind everybody again to keep Austin Brower, Ted Brower's son, in your prayers with his heart ailment. He's doing much better, but he's certainly not out of the woods. And also we have an ongoing situation with Health Masters, because they have been so good to me and so good to my family, and they help so many people. We have partnered for tonight for a 1-week deal that if you go to the website healthmasters.com and order one of their health products or several of their health products, you can take 5% off your entire purchase price simply by using the coupon code DAVE5. Again, that's DAVE5. And again, Steve and I will probably touch on this in the second hour. I think America could look like Venezuela before a whole lot longer, and you're going to want to have food and water and a whole lot of other stuff. But get your food from Numana.com/Hodges, where we have the very best in quality, pricing, and convenient delivery. Again, that's Numana.com/Hodges. And, of course, Scene.life. And Steve and I both are members of Scene.life. And I think it's important that we have people who go there who can reach out and have relationships, collegial relationships with people, share information, kind of like our committees of correspondence that the Founding Fathers used after martial law was imposed on Boston. And so I encourage everyone, get out of Facebook and go to Scene.life. And there's no .com to it, no mystery. And this time, hopefully, I can read my own writing. Steve Quayle here, and I've had a business relationship with Steve, a personal relationship with Steve, a professional relationship with Steve. And really it kind of centers around what he does for people. And you're hearing about how he does step up, and he does so much of this quietly behind the scenes. But he is going to try to help you save what wealth you've accumulated. And if you keep your cash in the bank much longer, you keep the bulk of it there, you are going to be some of the sorriest people on the face of the earth. You need to prepare to come out the other side of these coming crises. And the dollar is not going to be worth the paper that's written on. You need to get into precious metals, Renaissance precious metals. Steve will be around for an hour after the show, 406-586-4842. And if that's not convenient for you, call him in the morning, again at 406-586-4842. Steve, anything you want to add to that before we get back into our discussion?
Well, yeah, I'll be up for probably another 2 hours from the end of this show, and they can email me and but I want people to email me that are serious. Here's the deal. If you don't know that you want to do what you're going to do, all I'm telling you is this, is right now, even guys I know who are in the business that should be going to bed or, approaching going to bed on the East Coast are staying up. Tomorrow is a big day. People say, well, couldn't gold sell down, silver sell down? Yeah, they could. Anything's possible. Look, gold had, in effect, Dave, $160 range in one day. That's a big deal. That's the biggest move. But here's what people don't get. A guy just sent me an email, okay? I think this is really important because this guy is telling me that his USSA bank account was hacked, okay? And that everything was stolen, okay? May I just read this real quick? It reiterates what you said. A couple paragraphs. Steve, my bank account was hacked Friday and Saturday, and my savings and checking accounts were depleted. The thief stole everything by having all of my personal information, which I can only guess they obtained via the OPM data loss of about a year or so ago, that affected 4 to 5 million government employees. As mentioned, the thief or thieves knew everything about me, enough to convince the USAA representative that they had forgotten their phone passwords, which was then reset to one they could choose, allowing them complete access to all my accounts. While USAA has been helping this issue so far, as they should be, wait times to speak with a representative have been extraordinarily long. I've never, ever experienced a 2-hour wait to simply get through the main access line to speak to someone. I would suggest to your readers, this is the last thing, Dave, who have accounts with USAA to closely monitor all transactions. Also, if you still have the non-chipped ATM debit card, I'd suggest ordering a chip card pronto. Mine happened to arrive in the mail just yesterday, and I don't even want to deal with the chip or not chip. But here's what's going to happen, okay? I believe that every bit of psychological, mental manipulation has been aimed at the people in America to ultimately sit back as their accounts are hacked and everything's stolen from them. Look at every single data breach, and I maintain that there are no safeties. You think your password's safe? It isn't. So I'm slowly exiting. For the record, I do not do online banking. I'm going to make this as clear as I can. The people that I know who have gotten really hurt financially do online banking. Do you know what the typical complaint to me saying that, get out of it immediately, close it out, start a new account is? Well, it's not convenient. Neither is a bloody prison camp being fed gruel and listening to the screams in the night. You know, Dave, if people won't, and this is the hardest part, if you ask me, I'll volunteer even if you don't ask me. The most frustrating thing is to see people that should know better, that obviously have some success in doing something well, and yet they won't make a single step to protect their family, and I'm talking physically protect them. I know people, obviously, that are anti-gun. And by the way, I want to recommend a book to all your listeners. I had Sig Swanstrom on, God, Guns, and Guts, of Firearm Defense, the Bible View. Sid's a real guy. He knows what it's like to live in Honduras or Guatemala and have to have armed guards in the churches. And we talked about Charles Van Wyck, who's a guy that saved 1,000 people from getting slaughtered in South Africa with 2 shots with a .38 snub nose. And when the one of the terrorists was captured, they said they had enough guns and grenades to kill every single one. Any pastors listening to us tonight, you need to have elders with cojones, okay? I would pick the guys that are military or, police officers to always be carrying. If you want to really do it right, make sure that your rear entrances are secured and that anybody that comes in, if they're carrying concealed weapons, let them carry the concealed weapons. I'm talking about parishioners. But, you know, you need to take this thing seriously because, again, Dave, I put up on my alerts today that you're going to love this one. In Henderson, Nevada, a security guy working in one of the casinos, his friend called and told him that they basically arrested 5 Middle Easterners, 3 on the terrorist watch list, with blueprints of bridges in the area and a Koran, and basically they were ordered to turn them loose. Please go to my website, ladies and gentlemen, stevequayle.com. The most important stuff I post in real time in my world is when I'm awake, is on the Q alerts, top right-hand side. And it's astonishing, Dave. You understand that that's rhetorical. Of course you do. That no matter what happens, no matter what's intercepted, there is an order comes down from the higher-ups to release these individuals. I guarantee you they're not going to take that attitude towards white guys, you know. And I'm not making this about race, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm making it about is the spirit behind this. For when Jesus said, nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, that word nation in Greek is ethnos, from which we get the word ethnicity. So we're talking race wars. I hate it. I tell my black brethren who love Jesus, don't get involved in it. Stay away from the people that want to instigate and initiate it. Same thing with my Latino brothers, and I owe my life to Latinos. So there's no, white guilt or white anything in me. There's a white horse, and the rider is Jesus Christ. I'm talking about who comes back to rule over the planet. But the thing, and I'm not talking about any, Salt Lake City doctrine. I'm talking about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. We're talking about events transpiring in our very days. If people cannot have their children safe in the streets of Idaho, which is a state that you wouldn't think would be having these issues, and yet the bad people, the ones talking about it, being threatened with prison or arrest, I mean, does anybody get the absolute absurdity of this? So I think people had better, and I'm sorry if this is offensive, good. Grow a set, get real, and prepare. Because when I say prepare, this is not like you're preparing for what I call a 72-hour suicide kit, okay? A 72-hour suicide kit is just prolonging the inevitable. You need to have health food supplements, vitamin C. Do you know how much help a half a pound of vitamin C powder, and not made in China will be worth, or just multivitamins that are the best out there? Like, good night, Mike Adams. Absolute natural health news. I mean, fantastic product. By the way, if no one's ever said this, I want to acknowledge something. I think Mike Adams is one of the most intelligent, one of the most gifted writers in the nutritional and real world that there is. I delight in reading his articles. He is absolutely gifted, and you can learn a lot from him because he knows what he's talking about. And I'll share this too, Agreed. Dave. And this is really critical. I've had a sponsor for years, Enter Health Foods, okay? I can tell you this, that those guys have been amazing. When I was helping veterans, Steve St. Clair, man, he was at the pump. He was on the phone immediately. the testimonials of people, Enter Health supplement, and I'm talking about a nutritional supplement, and the Cocoa Mojo. He was the first guy to combine, coconut and chocolate, organic, and having, dealing with caprylic and lauric acid. This is Katie's, world. But here's what I'm saying: you can buy smart too. Nutrition doesn't come in how much pounds you put down into your stomach. It comes in the form of genuine nutrition that can feed your cells on a cellular level. So Enter Health, and I'm saying this, people have got to understand that Enter Health and Inner Health will give you brain health, and everything that's going down right now is to cause cognitive dissonance. We're at it, Dave. This is a week that will go down in history as famous, and I'm with you. The closer we get to the Republican convention, you're going to see the biggest batch of cowards, traitors, bullies, turncoats. There's no words I can describe that we can use on the air right now, people that are going to show their true colors. Because as Romy just sent me, my friend Romy, intercessor friend, just sent me saying, God is separating the sheep from the goats. That's the same word that Pastor Langford said, the wheat and the tares. But I'm telling you what, you're going to see a harvest of tares, T-A-R-E-S, and I'm praying that God intervenes to stop the terrors, T-E-R-R-O-S, that are being planned. Stay alert, and again, I'll say this, unless you know you're supposed to be there, take very active measures for situational awareness. Always have a back door. Keep your eyes on the back door. Learn to do what the Secret Service does. You listen to the speaker, but you scan the audience. Get a position in the building where you can see everything. If you go to bathrooms, don't go alone. This is one time where, it's becoming wiser even to go to restrooms and for legitimate reasons, or have somebody stand out and watch, because there's nothing safe anymore. And that's what terrorism feasts on. The ability to keep their enemy, which is us, destabilized in all ways. So, Dave, if you got any questions, I don't want to just make this a dump, all this data. But look, we're in it. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal because it's the ignition that has been turned on. Or let's put it this way: the plunger in the dynamite igniter has been pressed down, and now everybody goes, see, the explosion wasn't really bad. Wait until it takes full form. Wait until it really begins to happen. I think that, Randy, thank you for sending me that about your bank account. When you get guys like that talking about their bank accounts being hacked and all their savings and checkings being depleted, what is this brother to do except live off what he may have out of the bank?
Well, I got one for you along those lines too, Steve. On one of our accounts, our business account, we had a $642 charge. My wife came to me and said, "Did you spend $642?" And I looked at her and I said, "No, I'd be in trouble without clearing it with our finance minister, my wife." And she said, "Well, it's here." And she showed me. We called the bank. They don't have any record of it. They're trying to resolve the discrepancy right now. I kid you not. The bank could not pin this down in a 2-day period. We're going to go in tomorrow and we're going to force the issue. But what you're telling me is not surprising. The other thing I wanted to bring up to you was tell a brief story here and then lead into the question, because I want to know what I'm going to be up against. And let me tell you that back in, 94, 95, I was, a Maricopa County first responder. And I did it because, they say, your family gets the drugs first, you'll know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. So I volunteered from my campus, and then FEMA took us over and we did joint stuff. We had joint meetings, and I became friends with a guy in FEMA who lived not very far from me, and I got to know his entire family very well. Well, 4 years ago, in 2012, they came to me, actually came to my place of work. They were waiting for me in my office. I walked in, and they said, we're leaving in 2 months. And they described basically a sheltered community where they'd be out of harm's way. And what they told me, and this guy's specialty in FEMA was counter-bioterrorism. He said that we have stuff that can do things that no one else in the world knows what we have or what we can do. And he goes, and that means the Russians and the Chinese. And he said, if this country rises up, it's going to be unleashed on the American people. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, sure, and the reason, the hats I've worn over the years and the books I've written and researched, one of them was Breed No Evil. You can design a bioweapon for any identifiable blood trait or genetic trait, okay? What I've worried about, and I think this is what he was implementing, or not implementing, but he was indicating or kind of signaling you, is that the chemtrail spraying, geoengineeringwatch.org, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, that I've always been concerned it was a primary of a binary weapon. In other words, Dave, we all have within ourselves now, after all these decades of spraying, we have different antigens, and a lot of us have pathogens. And what happens if they introduce what I call the death spray? We've all got Part A, but they introduce Part B. What happens if they're introducing a genetically altered form of rabies that has been already typed in some of the zombie protocol that the medical field has gotten? What he's saying in no uncertain terms is everybody had better realize this, that Psalm 91 is their only protection, and it's no longer enough to go to church